wouldn't that just us be doing the damage to ourselves? Because if we can get the word out to other people, like, hey, like if you want to be happier, look at things that'll make your life better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, how do you get people out of that trap? Because if it's designed to like
it's designed to
there,
keep you
obviously
there.
whatever's keeping us there is, you know, causing this.
Like I said earlier, that's why I said it kind of comes down to people ultimately choose what they see on Instagram and stuff, because you can choose to like not like a picture and stuff, you know. Like I've looked up like how the Instagram algorithm and stuff works. Like it ranks the kind of content you want to see based off of like these 4 factors, and in this ranking too. Number 1, based off of whether or not you saved the picture. If you save the picture, it's more likely to post that kind of content towards you. If you sent the picture to somebody, that's number 2. If you commented on the picture, that's number 3. And if you liked the picture, that's number 4. And then if you I think like came back to the picture like through their story or something, or like it was like sent to you, and like that's like number 5 or something. There's like a 5th one, but I can't remember it. But yeah, so like it's like ultimately you can educate yourself on like how the algorithms work, and then, you know, use it to your advantage. But the thing is like it makes it so hard to do that, you know?
Because
they don't promote that kind of content. They don't promote that kind of content, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. Because I mean, I guess people generally that are posting this type of content they're not doing it because they're getting paid. Because if they were, they'd be selling it, you know, as a course.
Yeah, exactly. Or there are other big Instagram pages that just sell shout-outs and stuff. You know what I mean?
That is very true. Just because they have the likes and
exactly.
Like
they have like a few million followers, so they're just like, hey, sell shout-outs, and you know, and then they just post helpful Instagram like stuff. You know, like there's that
here and there
too.
Every so often. Yeah.
So it's like, ultimately, it's kind of on the user too, but I feel like it's kind of, is it the corporation's responsibility to not make it like bad for people? Because like they know that like it's bad for people, you know?
They know they made it addictive, but the whole purpose of any service is to make it so that you can get them to keep coming back for more, and we choose to keep coming back for more, knowing that this is like harmful to us. They're not. It's kind of like also the argument too, like alcohol is harmful for us, to our body. It damages our livers, but we keep coming back to it, and it's not illegal, and it's not frowned upon.
Yeah.
Unless you're, you know, maybe you might be out more on a conservative side of things where you just don't drink and all that type of things, but by the general masses, it's not looked down upon.
Yeah. Well, the thing is there's still like advertising like laws and like policies and stuff like to protect people and like the way how like we're influenced like in society. But like there's not really like any laws that go against social media in terms of like their algorithms, you know? Like,
I mean, that could also be because of how new social media is still. Like, how are you going to put laws and regulations into a system where social media has been around for less than 30 years? I mean, if you're talking like going all the way back to MySpace days and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, like less than 30 years, yeah, but I mean, just because like less than 30 years, that's a long time still. Like, MySpace, I think, came out in the early 2000s. We're in 2021, bro. Like...
Yeah, but how can you look at the impacts on an entire generation in less than 30 years? That's, you know, you need it. That the whole reason why we know it's bad for us is because we've had time to look at the impact over the course of time on different generations.
Yeah. Okay, but there's been studies already to show that there's like a direct correlation between social media's current use and like happiness and suicide rates. So why hasn't legislation been like passed or like any action like taken?
I mean, because that's based off the user though. You can't, and it's kind of like interesting too, like when you look at it between alcohol and or drugs and social media. Those are the only two services where the customer is called a user.
Yeah.
And usually like that's kind of like talking about us as like we're kind of like a product in itself. Whereas like
I mean, we are
everything else you're a customer. You're not a user.
Yeah, no, because we don't pay for the services, so we have to be the product. If you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. Because ultimately what they're selling is watch time to advertisers. They're selling advertising space, really. That's like all that social media companies make money off of. But it's like, even still, because of that, they have like advertising like policies, like how they're supposed to like advertise to kids. But like Instagram, like, and Facebook, like, they don't have any distinction between whether or not their users are kids or not. And they don't do anything to like monitor their advertising.
But what type of advertising do you think is so harmful to kids though that they would have to monitor?
Merchandise from like streamers and like influencers, mostly, honestly.
What type of merchandise? Like what's harmful to a kid as far as
not necessarily that it's harmful, but just that it's not necessarily that it's harmful, but it can cause like a lot of like financial like problems. There's been a lot of instances on Twitch where kids have taken their parents' like credit cards to like just donate to streamers, like a ton of money, dude. Sometimes like hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, There's also been like the whole thing with Fortnite and CSGO, where kids were taking their parents' credit cards to roll on the loot boxes and all of that. And CSGO and all those things are advertised, and the loot boxes and stuff in Fortnite are all advertised on Facebook and Instagram. They're all.
How can you punish a company? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that's basically a form of online gambling, because you're paying money for the chance to win a prize worth about, like, in terms of like they could be sold for actual dollars.
Yeah, but it's not legally like viewed that way, so it's not going to be like considered online gambling. So
yeah,
the thing is,
actually, in some countries, I think in Europe, they did pass some laws that it was like considered online gambling.
Okay, but I guess then if we want to talk about it like that, are we talking?
I don't know that for a fact. I just remember that was being talked about. But like, yeah, like it's been discussed like very heavily, like before.
Well, not okay. Then, for as far as advertising laws go, do we want to talk about it in the context of North America or Europe? Because that's or like the world. Like,
no, I think overall as a whole, it doesn't matter, because the thing is this content is pushed all over the world because of the internet. The world is connected through the internet, so we have like
different countries have different laws and political beliefs. So how can you like force that through?
I mean, ultimately you can't, but I think we can try to come to an agreement on what kind of ethical standard there should be.
Okay, no, that's fair.
You know what I mean? I don't think we should come up with one for every single country based off of how their culture thinks. Like, we should just have our own opinions,
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Then how do you feel it should be? Well, how do you think it's fair to like regulate that type of content from kids to be like being able to see it because of the parents' negligence to like keep their money and cards away from their kids so they don't do something like that? Because that's not like that's something that everybody knows is a possibility, and I feel like it's not fair to punish a company because a parent is being irresponsible with their finances.
If I'm being honest, I don't think it's necessarily on the company's sole responsibility to like make sure that it's not kids gambling. I just think that there should be laws in place to prevent that kind of advertising towards kids' accounts on social media. You know what I mean? And I think social media platforms should just more have a responsibility about knowing which like section of their audience are people under the age of 18 and which people are over the age of 18. But then you get into like a whole like invasion of privacy issue and like whether or not like they really need to know that. You know what I mean?
How's that an invasion of privacy if you're trying to focus on the type of advertisements that are being put out? That all those pages are basically public for everybody to see. Obviously, some pages they need to follow back and things like that, but
no, I'm just saying, like, overall, some people don't want their age disclosed on social media. You know what I mean? So, like, they don't even want that.
Like, they don't want to put that information into their account.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah. So it's like to force that kind of registration on people is kind of an invasion of privacy, I feel like.
So okay, but that goes into an issue with big data.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, do you think like it's an invasion of privacy because they basically, realistically, they already know, dude? Like,
no, yeah, I mean, they have your social media is probably connected in some way, shape, or form on your phone. You probably like Facebook. They have Facebook Pay. Apple, the Apple cards. You know, like Apple doesn't have Apple does have social media if you think of the iTunes store. You buy what's it called? Buy music and videos and things like that.
Yeah, right. So. Exactly. That's its own form of social media. Yes, it is. It's like, I don't know, like. Do you think it's in... Okay, so if we basically go off of the information that, like, we already can basically confirm based off of data breaches that have been confirmed by these companies that they, you know, leak themselves. You know, they say, oh, hey, we had data breaches. And they say the information that was stolen. And, you know, it's all of our information. Since they already know it, like, do you think it's an invasion of privacy, like, for them to basically force, like, ID registration on social media? Because I feel like that's what they would have to do to, like, enforce that kind of advertising.
The thing is, if you look at it and it's for the general benefit of the whole public, I don't think there's an ethical issue with that, because you gotta, like, look out for the most people possible when you're trying to come up with these laws and regulations. That's the whole reason why you have laws and regulations, is to help keep the public safe from different things. Obviously, there's biased laws and things like that, but that's the intended purpose. So I don't think it would necessarily be the reason why it's a data breach issue is because companies would sell that data to advertisers. Yeah, and that's a problem. If we could trust these companies to not sell our data to advertisers, then I don't see like any problem with it ethically. It's just we can't really trust these companies because they've shown to not be trustworthy.
Yeah, they make it very obvious not to be trustworthy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they do not hide that shit. They're like, yeah, we suck. So if you like, it's not really unethical then, because it's for the benefit of society as a whole, you're saying, right?
Yeah, if that's the intended purpose of getting these advertising regulations in place, so these apps can have the data to understand, and we're willingly giving them that, I think there's not an issue. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like people would be more willing to do it if they know it was to help regulate content for the betterment of mental health, but then there would also be those conspiracy theorists that would be like, damn, like the government trying to control us and things like that. Yeah, they would be like trying to make some like, I don't know if this is safe to say, with some like pedo like conspiracy theories, like, you know how like they like the Pizzagate thing. Yeah, like the Pizzagate, and you know, like that with like social media companies, and like, you know, like there would be like a lot of conspiracies about that, and like that would obviously be like a big issue, because then we get into the fake news argument of like how social media has fucking spread fake news throughout the entire world and like was basically unregulated forever, you know? Yeah, no, I mean there's really no way to know if our information is actually true. That's the worst part. We're just trusting a source online that we see. Yeah, you know, people like say that like when you really break down like doing your due diligence and like doing research on facts that are presented and like data and like all that, the thing is unless if you're an actual expert in that field, you can't prove whether or not the data they just said is actually true or not, you know? They could have just completely made it up, and you just have to go off of like what they're saying. Whether or not, and like not only that, like you weren't there, you weren't
in like that vicinity when like these things happen, how do you know that there were this many bodies counted? Was there a live recording of it? If there is a live recording, then how do you know that like it hasn't been like tampered with? Because videos can be tampered with, like we know that.